Thanks to everyone for joining today. We're going to learn something, hopefully help you get unstuck, have some fun. But the biggest challenge I'm going to have today is making sure I'm sharing my screen properly. So I'm sharing right now, and hopefully everyone is seeing it. If not, Adam, feel free to yell at me in the chat. But all right, let's jump in. What are we talking about when we're talking about getting unstuck, right? Look, marketing ain't easy. Marketing is difficult. Business is difficult, right? And so what I found in my career, and definitely a lot of people I talk to, sometimes you're just stuck somewhere, right? So the first thing we want to try to do today is think about in your mind. I mean, we're going to cover some specific people's challenges, but think about in your mind, where's somewhere you feel stuck right now, right? And have that in your mind as we're working through with what we're going on today. I cannot solve all your problems. I can't give all your marketing answers. The only thing I'm trying to do with these examples I give and the methodologies and all that, just help you move a bit, right? Get unstuck from that, get an idea, get going, try something out, see if you can get those results you need. So I use what I call, well, not what I call, this is James Joyce came up with this, the universal in the particular. And this is what that means. I'm not just going to talk up here at this very high level about these methodologies and all these different things you can do with your marketing, right? I'm going to show you specific examples. So people have written in before, you might have seen it when you signed up. They said, hey, here's where I'm stuck. We're going to use those examples to help that specific person, but also to help you out, right? So it's the universal. What I'm doing from all these examples is giving bigger ideas, bigger methodologies that you can use, everyone attending can use, but it's the universal by seeing a particular specific example from one of your peers. Hopefully we're helping that peer out who's ever on. Hopefully if you're on today and you sent it in, we can get you talking. We can talk through this stuff together. We'll be helping you by seeing those examples. And also I encourage you, jump in, use the chat, do whatever you need to do to give them ideas too, to help them get unstuck. Partly by doing that, by looking at someone else's challenge, right? You won't be as blinded as you are by your own challenge. You ever see that in a relationship, right? You see someone else's relationship and you're like, oh my gosh, they're messing up their marriage. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? But in your own relationship, you can't see the same things. It's the same thing with our businesses and with our marketing. It's a lot easier sometimes. You see someone else's marketing or website, you give them some ideas, your own ideas start to get flowing. So I encourage you, be active in the chat, be active thinking about your specific challenges. This is not a video, it's interactive. Also ask questions throughout. We're here today together to help you out. We're here together at the same time. You're not just watching a video. Let's all help each other. This is who I am. It was a great intro by Adam, so you kind of get the idea. Basically, I write marketing Sherpa case studies. I've gotten a lot of examples from all the case studies I've written. I'm going to bring that to you today. I host the How I Made It Marketing podcast. Interviewed a lot of different marketing leaders. I'm going to bring some of that wisdom with you today. I've done this. I've been a copywriter, and I'm also an all-around swell guy. You can see it right there on the slide. And we're going to talk about that, but you're very lucky to be dealing with an all-around swell guy today. The organization, Mech Labs AI, it's the parent of Marketing Sherpa, Marketing Experiments. We got a patented methodology, run 10,000 marketing experiments. And I tell you all this to tell you in the front end, here's why you should listen to me or believe what I'm saying on some level. Again, listen to your peers as well. Listen to other people's advice as well. But here is the background where of this methodology comes from and the stuff I'm going to teach you today. With that, let us jump in. Our first example is from Odalis Reynoso. He was the first, or she was the first person stuck. I'm not sure. If Odalis is on, they're welcome to get unmuted. They're welcome to talk if they can. But you can see on my screen what Odalis wrote from Moro Academia Hairbrand. The thing I wanted to jump in here was they said we've hit a roadblock in effectively communicating our product's value. That is a common challenge. If you are stuck there as well, I'm going to give you some ideas on how to get unstuck with clarity and credibility. But first, I want to show you what they're doing so far. Showing you on the screen. You can if they're on, you can put the website in the chat. Feel free to go yourself to it's moroacademia.com so you can scroll through and see. You can put in ideas on the chat and let them know, what your thoughts are. But here you can kind of see this is the homepage. Welcome to More Academia. We care about the health of your hair. That's the top of the homepage. That's the bottom of the homepage. There's a quote there, right? This is the product display page for their hair anti-loss and growth serum. And you can see there's the top of the page on the left, the bottom page on the right. If you go yourself, click and shop, scroll through, look at it. Tell Odalis what are some ideas for improving this website? Think about it yourself. But I'm going to jump in and I'm going to tell you about our value proposition heuristic, right? And what this heuristic helps you do, first of all, heuristic is basically just a thought tool. If you've been on any of these before with me, or if you're familiar with Mech Labs, you might be familiar with what heuristics are. I've taught them some before. But they're basically thought tools. They're simple methodologies that you can look through and see what are the different factors that I can influence to help improve, in this case, the net force of my value proposition, right? So there's different elements on screen. I'm going to zoom in on a few. With the different examples, I'll zoom in on different ones, and we'll kind of get through this whole thing together, right? But let's start with clarity, right? So there's four important elements with your value proposition: clarity, credibility, appeal, and exclusivity. There's also some costs. We'll get to that. We're going to start with clarity. And here is a real simple example. On everything I'm showing you, all the examples you'll see at the bottom of the slides, there is a source link where you can see the full article. You can dive deeper into any of this. I am going to be posting these slides on my LinkedIn right after this event, so you can get the slides. You can see for yourself exactly what we have here. And it's the easiest way I've found to share them. So there's a lot more there, but let me just give you one quick example. What do we mean by clarity? Here was an experiment we ran. The second example here, improved performance, is for real estate community. Get your free community guide, get your free community map from the specific company. And here's just an example. This is just one word change, very small, minor difference, but just that one word change made a difference in results for this company. A guide is something general. A guide could be many things. What they were actually offering was a map, and that community map that was helpful. If you're thinking of potentially moving to an area from that real estate company, that map was more helpful than just a general guide. By being clear on what they offered, they increased conversion. Okay? Simple, easy example. Keep that in mind. All right, now let's take a look at how we can have clarity on our homepages. What are the things we need to do on our homepages? Our founder's name is Flint McLaughlin. You might have heard of him before. He's one of the pioneers of conversion optimization, digital marketing, online testing from the 90s. And he says every web page, especially homepages, but every web page should answer these three questions, right? When a visitor comes to your page, or coming from someone else, somewhere else, coming from an email, coming from an ad, coming from search, wherever it is, it's a little, you get a little confused when you first land somewhere. And these are the three things that they want to know. Where am I? What can I do here? And why should I do it? So this is a great chance, write this down, take a screen cap of this, look at your own homepage, landing pages. Are you answering these three questions? So let's take a look at More Academia page. I'm trying to channel the customer here, right, through the eyes of the visitor. I will say for any of these I'm talking about, I'm not in this industry, so I'm giving general information. I may be off on some of this stuff, but it just gives you a general idea of how to think through this for this specific one, how to think through this for yours. Where am I? If the visitor visited this page, all right, I'm at More Academia, right? They're pretty clear on the top. Welcome to More Academia. But does everyone know what that is? Is More Academia a big enough brand, right? It's not Apple or Pantene or something. Is that a big enough brand where they're like, okay, I know what More Academia is? I don't know. What can I do here? Well, I can shop. I see the shop button in the middle, but what am I shopping for? Shampoo, conditioner, it's making my hair healthy. I don't know if the visitor truly understands. And then why should I do it? Well, there's a quote at the bottom, kind of seems like it's a testimonial. I guess it's coming from the founder, but I don't know. Why should I believe this quote? Why should this get me to do anything, right? This is an example. Again, look at your own pages. Try to walk through, or ask someone else to walk through those pages and try to answer these questions. So now what I've done is I use MechLabs AI. Like, I'm a writer. I've done this for a long time, but this is my shortcut. Use whatever AI you want. But to me, like, you don't want to just trust artificial intelligence for everything. You don't just give it an input and then use the exact output. But it is such a great thinking tool. It is such a great shortcut, especially for solopreneurs, right? Sometimes it's hard. You don't have anyone to think and brainstorm with. And so a lot of what you're going to see today, I've been brainstorming with MechLabs AI. And what I do on the bottom there, I'm sharing all these chats with you. Again, when you get them, I'll post the slides on my LinkedIn. You can click through, you can see the full chat, give you ideas for prompts, give you ideas for different things to do. But that's my shortcut tool. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend I wrote all this. I tweaked it, but I used MechLabs AI, and that's how I can have the time to do all these examples for you in this webinar. So I asked for MechLabs AI for help in clarifying the homepage we just saw. I specifically used the explanation builder, ties into MicroES 3, which is the clarity question that people would ask on the website. And so here's just an example, right? natural solutions for healthier, fuller hair. You can kind of see it all on the screen. There's a subhead and goes through some of those different things. So remember, if we're looking back, that was the original page. Here's an idea for some homepage copy. So let's unpack this. Biased, of course, as I am. But if I go through now and I ask these questions, right? Where am I? Okay, I'm at More Academia. I know that. It's a homepage for a company that helps with hair loss, right? Hopefully that's what you're getting from that headline and subheadline, right? So they're in the right place. If this is a pain point or a challenge they have, okay, this is for someone like me. What can I do here, right? I wasn't entirely clear from that homepage. Well, you can look at the copy on the screen there. I can get 2 products to help with my hair loss, right? I think we've added some clarity there. This is what I can do. Now, the last one, why should I do it? And we're going to get a little more into the credibility. This is an especially challenging product. So I think if we can kind of give some ideas for this product, hopefully we can help your product too. Why should I do it? Well, the visitor at this point might be thinking, hey, I'm skeptical. There's a lot of false claims in these industries. I don't know why I should do it yet. I do see some clear calls to action on here. Learn why it works. So my hope with that visitor at this point is, okay, I'm in the right place for someone like me. I know what they offer. I don't yet know why I should do it, but I know enough. I'll click and I'll try to see why it works, right? Not going to try to sell them right away. Just trying to get those microsystems. So hopefully that gives you an understanding for clarity, the importance of clarity on your homepage, on your landing pages, and all of your marketing, and how you can improve that clarity. Next up, let's look at credibility. Okay, credibility. So if you remember in my intro, I said I'm an all-around swell guy. What did you think of that? You can tell me in the chat. You can be honest. Am I really an all-around swell guy? So when someone looked at this slide, maybe you looked and you thought, okay, this guy claims to be a reporter for Marketing Sherpa writing case studies. Okay. This guy's claiming here that he's a host of the How I Made It Marketing podcast. Well, those are specific claims. I could easily check those. I could see if they're true. He's probably not lying about those. All around swell guy. Come on, that's just hype. Is he a good guy? Is he not? I don't know. Why would someone put that on a slide? It sounds hype, right? And I say this, obviously my tongue is firmly in the cheek here, but that's what we do as marketers sometimes, right? Or that's what we do as businesses. We make these claims, right? Leading company in the industry. I hear that all the time. We're the best for this. We're the best for that. We feel like we can throw out all these claims. What does the customer think on the other end? Do they really believe it? Or does it feel a little foolish, like me saying an all-around swell guy, if you don't back it up, which we're going to talk about with credibility. But I see we have a question coming in, so I'm going to ask Adam to ask that question. Do we have a question, Adam?
And I have to unmute myself before I actually ask the question, don't I? Yes. So Dolores has a question. Does this system also work for a service provider consulting and training?
Oh, absolutely. And we do have some examples that are more in line with that we're going to come across. But this is pretty universal. And I'm going to show actually specifically where credibility, how it affects, the product you're selling, how it affects that. But specific clarity, especially for service offerings, what are you selling? And credibility is important as well. And again, stay tuned because we do have some examples that are a little more in line with that, a little more service consulting oriented and product oriented.
Gotcha.
Let's take a look at this credibility spectrum. And also, Dolores, you can think about where am I on that spectrum, right? So again, credibility is important for every product, every service, every decision a customer makes, right? They're ultimately going to say, and I'm sure you've seen some ridiculous marketing claims as a customer, right? Don't really believe that. But let's look at, there's probably a bit of a range of how important it is for different customers and different products. So one of the elements that would affect the importance of credibility is the difficulty of change. How hard is the change that you are asking a potential customer to make, right? So on one end, I would say, here's a really simple example, web search, right? If I'm using google.com now, it's very easy to just type in bing.com and start searching there, right? So, easy change. Maybe I'm not so worried about just giving it a try. But think about, in any B2B setting, switching to a major new software platform like a new ERP. Think about everything that's involved there. It's not even just the monetary cost you're asking for, ripping out the old system, putting in the new system. Is there a customer downtime? All the stakeholders in the company, what will they think? What if it doesn't work as well, right? That's an example of something that's pretty pretty big difficulty of change. So where's your product lie in this, and how hard the changes that you're asking potential customers to make? Financial risk. How big of a financial risk are you asking potential customers to take? Piece of fruit. I use this as an example. I walked in to Walmart with my daughter a few days ago, and right up front, they had this big stack of oranges. Navel orange is 77 cents for an orange. Now, I'm in Florida where we have oranges. I know we like sell juicing oranges or whatever, but for whatever reason, our oranges come from California, the ones we eat. And I've gotten navel oranges sometimes. And sometimes, you ever get them, they're kind of like all dried up inside, right? Or you get them sometimes and they're so juicy. But when you're looking at the outside of the orange, you can't really tell how fresh it is or how good it's going to be inside. So what was my financial risk at that point? It was 77 cents for an orange. So I grabbed a handful and I said, that is a financial risk I will take. It doesn't need a ton of credibility here that this is a fresh orange. It looks good enough. It's a low risk. I'll do it. What's a bigger financial risk? If I told you right now, I have a Dan meme coin, I'm selling right now, a Dan meme coin, how risky would that be to you? How much credibility would you need from me behind that meme coin that you're not going to lose your money? Maybe that's in the middle, but what if it was this? What if I said, no, the only thing I will accept is your life savings in a Dan meme coin? How much credibility would you want from me, right? It would be pretty far along there. So how much financial risk are you asking of your potential customers? And lastly, what about the personal risk? What personal risk are you asking from? For example, on the low end, buying a ballpoint pen, that is a low personal risk. I've learned recently it's not a zero personal risk. Interesting thing. I think it was Pilot Pens. I forgot who the pen company is. They actually have you look at this next time you're using one of them. They have a hole in the cap of the pen. And the reason for this is, unfortunately, I guess some kids or maybe even adults put the pen cap in their mouth, went down their throat. They couldn't breathe. So they put a hole in there in case one of us are chewing in our pens, and you can breathe through the hole if it gets stuck in your throat. So nothing is zero risk. But again, a ballpoint pen, you're probably not thinking, okay, I have a big personal risk here. But what about an unregulated medical procedure, right? We've seen these. You can go overseas somewhere. It's super cheap compared to what we offer here. It's not very regulated, though. Do I really want to get a new liver from there, right? That would be on the higher end of personal risk. I would need, probably your customer would need a higher level of credibility. Okay, think about where you stand there. Now let's talk about this product specifically, Moro Academia, to help with hair loss. I think it's a really interesting product, and the reason I chose this one first is when we would talk about credibility and value proposition, and I have an example of a quote on the screen you could see from one of our past journals, we would actually use hair loss products as an example of a product that needed a lot of credibility, right? Because when you think about it, when you think about a value proposition, we talked about there are different elements, appeal and exclusivity. Like if a cure came out for baldness, I'm not saying that's exactly what they do, but it does seem like in the ballpark, right? There's some of the other elements that we're going to talk about in a bit. Appeal, exclusivity. Boy, I'm bald. If you're bald, right, and this cure comes out, that would be very appealing, right? It would also be very exclusive. I don't know anyone who has like a true cure for this right now. But the question it would come down to, if you were successful or not in selling it, right, it would be that credibility. So let's take a look now. Where does this product fit? Maybe I'd say difficult to change, not too high. People tend to try and switch hair care options. It's quite common. It's a little high because people sometimes get attached to their shampoo or whatever. The financial risk, I saw it was $45. It's not a huge loss, but it is more than minoxidil and finasteride, which are the competition that people have heard about. So they might try that before trying this financial risk. If the credibility wasn't there, it's less. But boy, that personal risk, that could be pretty high, right? Could there be some adverse health condition? Could there be a cosmetic reaction? Boy, I don't like losing my hair, but I also don't want my head to turn orange or pink or something like that, or my skin to fall off or whatever it is, right? So this is where the credibility comes in, where some of the risks that people might be considering. And there might be others that are specific to your product or this product or industry, but this gives you kind of a good general playing field to look at and think about, because this is the toughest thing we do running a business and marketing. How do we put ourselves in the customer's shoes? How do we understand what they're going through when they're deciding to either purchase or not purchase from our company, right? And these are some of the things they might be thinking about. All right, so let's look at credibility. Not a lot on the homepage, but I do give them credit when I actually got to the PDP page, the product display page. There was some more credibility elements, so you can take a look here. I put this through MechLabs AI as a shortcut, and they are, more academia. Good for you guys. You're doing relatively well. There's some bunch of ideas on the screen on how they can improve. Here's some ideas for adding credibility to give you thoughts for your own page and some of these things they're doing. Right. In this case, with this type of product, clinical and quantitative data. What data can you add for your product? Visual results, that works for lots of products. Ingredient transparency, going to a services offering, you still have ingredients, right? What is transparency on some level of what I'm going to experience if I purchase your product? Usage directions, so people know when they get it, they're going to do the right thing with it, work with it correctly. Sometimes that's even not in writing, it's putting a product tutorial right on the page, a video on the page, so they know, right? They have that risk and they're worried about it. They know like, oh, I'll know how to actually use this. I got a replacement part. My daughter has this like a machine that handles like cat litter or whatever. And part of buying the replacement part is like, well, am I going to know how to fix this myself? Well, they had the tutorial videos right there. So it's like, okay, I see that I can do this. I credibly believe that this company is offering me something that I can do. And brand reputation and positioning, right? This is where it gets harder for small companies, right? Because if it is a bigger product, a bigger brand name, it tends to be more trusted. So what can you do extra to go over and above to make sure that your products are credible? Now, since they're already doing some of those things on the page, again, they could do it better. I don't know all the facts of the product about, whatever clinical results they can show specifically, so I can't say that. I did go back to see if we had any case studies about hair loss products, and I found this one. It is an older one from 2006, but I thought it had a really nice example. Again, you can click in the source links to see the full case studies if you want. They used chat technology, and I noticed this company has chat on its page. Many of you might have chat on its page, but I thought it was really interesting. It wasn't just to sell the product, it was that they had, as they called it, swaths of scientific and technical information, right? And so they used that to help give the deeper technical information if people were concerned about the credibility of the product. Again, a hair loss product, you'd worry about that, but not only a hair loss product. So here's one idea. Threw it into MechLab's AI to get some ideas. Here's our current chat. With this chat, I mentioned in here about will guide you through even the most technical details. So that might be something if they're looking at some of the elements on the page already, the clinical data, they're unsure, and then they see that chat option. Well, there's enough of something here. I want to do it. I'm not sure yet. Oh, I can learn more about the technical details. Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to chat and understand that. That might be a way to increase conversion. And I see we have another question, Adam.
Yep, sure do. So Cheryl had a note on here. She said 98% of her students had learned more than they expected based on end of class surveys. And apparently it's maybe just a statement, but apparently that is a highly doubted statistic. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, one is third-party credibility. So if you can work with some sort of third-party company to show that it's true. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell you which one specifically, but there's ones like Trustpilot, even Google reviews, where if you can show, hey, it's 98%, click through here, you can read them all yourself. Barring that, a secondary thing you can do is publishing the different testimonials on the page so they can see them. And one thing with testimonials that's especially important, and that is something that helps with credibility, you want to think through and kind of like we looked at those previous screens, or what are some areas where you need to make sure you're credible. You want to look through what are those specific areas and use the testimonials to address that, right? So what some companies do, just call it the wall of testimonials page. Like, look at all these testimonials. These people think we're great, right? And I don't know from what we've seen if that really moves the needle, but if you called out 3 sections or whatever of where you need credibility and you said, and you use those as subheads for the testimonials, and then you had them there with a quote, people's names, even better, again, if they can click through to the specific platform. Those are some things you can do to improve the credibility of your credibility indicator. Great question.
And you had actually touched on something that was rather important, especially with SEO, which is search engine optimization. You said putting in a hyperlink to another website in order to give those statistics. So that helps credibility on your website and also helps out the website that you're linking to. So that's great for SEO. Darren had one quick question too. Why put ourselves in customer shoes as opposed to being proactive to what they tell us?
I'm sorry. Why put ourselves in customer shoes instead of being proactive to what they tell us?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I totally understand that. So yes, customers are telling us the things that maybe challenges they have or things they want to do with our product. One, by listening to them, I would argue you are somewhat putting yourself in customer shoes. But I'd say the other thing to consider is, customers are not always going to tell you everything that they're going through. You know, a lot, it depends how you ask or when you ask. There's just a certain, in society, the way we as human beings, I mean, we don't want to feel like we're insulting to someone. We tend to not want to go out of the way to complain. So one example I like to give, we used to have in here in Jacksonville, there was this big pitch event called One Spark, and basically there are all these startups, and you walk around downtown, and they all pitch your ideas. And so, you know, I really noticed in myself, it was there was like kind of two sides to this. So at the end of the day, probably some of these people left, and they pitched, and they're like, "Oh, I pitched 100 people, and I told them my value proposition." And they're like, "Great, right?" And so when I would be walking around, some people would pitch me their idea. They'd say it when I'd go to the booth, and I would think it's ridiculous, but you know, I don't want to be rude, so I don't say it. I was like, okay, good for you. That's great. You know what I mean? And so, yes, customer feedback is so important and it's vital, and we want to hear it, and we should be proactive to it as much as possible. But also be careful that customers aren't necessarily going to tell you everything. So one great case that we have in it, and whoever it was can follow up with me, I'll send it. It was about there's a company, I think it was called Missive. We published this recently. They're a replacement for Outlook. It's an inbox collaboration tool. And it was great. They used customer questions to totally change their homepage and got a big increase in results. But what they didn't do, they didn't say, tell us about our product and tell us about, you know, what works and tell us about what doesn't and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't about the product. They said, tell us about your journey, right? So when did you have a pain point? What happened? You know, why did you look for a solution? What was going wrong? What was going on? And then they kind of slowly worked into what features and benefits and stuff work. Because again, there are some people I like to use. I'm a huge fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know if anyone watches that show. And I like to mention Larry David is really an ideal customer in that show, because what does he do? He finds these little things in life, often with products and services that bug him, and he goes out of his way and he tells the company about it. But how does this show perceive that? Like, how are we supposed to perceive that in the show? That he's really annoying, right? He's always ticking people off. This isn't seen as a good thing. And so when we do have those customers be proactive, reward them and thank them and listen and try to fix that. But know that often, you know, for every one complaint or one piece of feedback you get like that, like there could be 100 other customers who just aren't going to say anything. So I hope that helps answer your question. I'm certainly not saying don't be proactive to customer feedback. Absolutely do. But please go a level deeper as well. All right. Oh, here's, by the way, a bunch of free resources we have if you want to go deeper into this stuff. Marketing Sherpa, we got a bunch of free case study and data articles. How I Made It Marketing, free podcasts with career lessons and stories. We got a free course there. Guild you can join. So all that stuff, again, it comes with a lot of deeper stuff going on. All right. Joseph Sestito from Hippo. I don't think we have him on today, but going to do this one briefly. He mentions that he uses AI for a lot of automation. He wondered if I knew of any AI for automating videos. So I don't have a specific answer for that. There's no AI I can recommend for automating videos, but I just want to share a little data we had. If anyone out there, including Joseph, is using AI for videos, two quick data points. One is, so when you're using AI, like a lot of times we just think, oh, it's cheaper and more efficient, I can get stuff out more, right? But make sure there is also, as we talk about this customer first marketing, something in it for the customer. And when it comes to AI and videos, it's the chance to enhance that customization, relevance, personalization of the content, right? That is a good reason to use AI. If you're just making things cheaper and more efficient for yourself, well, okay, that can be something good for it, but I don't know if it's really going to improve your results, right? The other key thing that we've heard so far in the data is be transparent, right? So what are we doing when we're marketing? Essentially, it's all about trust. We're bringing people in on some small level, like we talked about, and then, like using that more academia example, we have to get them to the trust level of, we're going to help you grow your hair. That's a big leap. So if you're already starting with something where the customer might not trust you, you're starting with a deficit. So when it comes to AI video, we found so far is just be transparent, say what's made. Like the worst things with AI is when you're trying to fool the customer that it's not AI. Just let them know what it is. Let them know why you're using it to personalize things for you to better serve it. So those are just some things to think about with AI video. But let's get into the next one. Get Unstuck number 3. This is from Jessica Booker from Happy Signings Notary Service. You can see what she said there. And so I love this question because sometimes you can learn more from the question someone asks than the answer I give. And this is such a great question. But whatever answer I give here is not going to be good as this question, which is basically saying, should I have some things together before I start marketing, right? So she's asking about logo design, having the brand together first before marketing. This is so crucial. When we would go and we have this AI guild and we would optimize, we do this live optimization, which, we'd get people's landing pages and ads and stuff and try to help them improve results. A lot of times they were focused on, oh, just give me the right exact words for this headline, or, give me the right exact words for this button or the right image or something like that. And what we really found was it wasn't so much that the ads themselves, like the wording was off or something like that. It was what's behind the ads. There wasn't a value proposition like we talked about. There wasn't a customer first offer, which we're going to get to, right? And so before you start investing in the ads and paying your money to Facebook and Google, wherever you're going to advertise and promote, get some of these fundamentals right first. So this is such a beautiful question from Jessica. Value proposition is one element to do this. And we're going to dive in to give you some thoughts for this. Again, going back to this value proposition heuristic, we had talked about two elements of that. We had talked about the clarity and the credibility. Let's jump in with some other elements, the actual cost. So when you look at this heuristic, we're talking about the net force, how forceful your value proposition ultimately is, right? And for that, we have to consider a cost factor. What are some of the costs? They're mental and material costs. So thinking about what costs your customers might have to go through when they're considering your value proposition. Let me give you an example of that. So material cost, we're thinking about material cost, it's I have to pay this much, right? It's money. And sometimes, we just stop and only think about that. But there's also a mental cost, which is I have to do this much. So let me give you an example of what this might look like in the notary world. Again, I'm not an expert in this, just my understanding with notaries in the past. So when it came to material cost, at least my experience in the past was it could often be zero, right? I'm members of banks and credit unions where the notaries are free. In my office, I've used notaries. I even have notaries in my neighborhood. So I didn't usually think about it as having a material cost specifically. What about mental cost, right? That's more where the cost came in, at least for me. It's I have to do this much, right? So for example, yeah, I could get free notary from my bank, but then I got to get to the bank in the middle of a workday, right? Or, hey, there's a notary in my office that I work with, but I got to bug them then and like, hey, can you do me this favor? Or, maybe it's a weekend and they're not available or something like that, right? So that's just giving you an idea of material and mental costs for a traditional notary service. Then I learned about something at one point from one of my neighbors who's a notary. There's something called mobile notary service, right? So what would material and mental costs look like for a mobile notary service? Well, there is actually material cost. I have to pay this much, right? I looking online real quick, could be $70. So why on earth would someone use it if they have these free options? Well, partly is the mental cost is less, right? They can come to me on nights and weekends. I don't have to get out to the bank, or I don't have to bug someone at the office. So that's kind of thing. And think through the material and mental cost for your products and services as well. Looking at this service specifically for Jessica, what she wrote in, what I was thinking, and this is just an example to get some people thinking, to see, here's an example of the creative ideas you can have when you don't start with ads. I'm just not trying to advertise this. You're starting with, okay, how can I get a competitive advantage? I looked up a mobile notary service in her hometown. I forgot what it was. And basically it was like there was a button on the homepage, book your mobile notary now. And then there's this form you got to fill out, right? So I was thinking, how can she get some competitive advantage, right? Before the logos and the advertising and all of that? What can we bake into what this business offers before all of that? Well, here's the mobile notary again, right? But I added something here. Yeah, I can book them, but I got to call around or fill out several forms. I got to wait to hear back. Maybe I want this now. I got to close this loan, whatever it is, right? That is a mental cost that mobile notary has. So what if her company got this idea from this case study? What if her company made that easier? So here's a case study. I was trying to look for it. I didn't really have a notary case study specifically, but it was something in general in that ballpark. I think this was an accounting firm, Cookie Finance. It's a case study before they had a typical form, right? But after, to book time, they just set up, you've seen this with Calendly and these type of things. It's very easy calendar, so you could book right away. And they doubled their client acquisition. Again, you can read the full case study and link at the bottom there. So what if she built that into her company? What if that was the company? It's a mobile notary, but it comes with insta booking. I just came up with that, right? So yes, you have the same material cost, but the mental cost is different. You go there, you can instantly see when they're available, book, get it on the schedule, they come to you. It's so much easier than a regular mobile notary. Did you bake in some competitive advantage before you're even getting into the ads or the logos, right? So brainstorming with McLeod's Eyes Marketing Genius, this is what the taglines and some of this stuff can look like. If you're, taking this approach, also ask for logo design ideas because she specifically mentioned logo design. And then I asked McLeod's Eye, like, okay, well, using this, come up with a logo for me. There's an example. So I would not say necessarily use this specifically as your logo, but this is a general comp that, as she said, should I figure these things out or should I just go and get the logo and the branding first? No, figure these things out, right? Because now that we figured it out, you'll see that's what the AI came up with, right? It's got the Instabook right in there, right? That was her company's name, Happy Signing. It's got the Instabook. It's got that green check mark or whatever to let you know it's Instabook. I'm not saying these are the perfect and right things for the logo, but it gives you an idea when you're starting with these thoughts about how to better serve a customer, where we talk about putting customers first, right? Putting ourselves in the customer's shoes and starting with this competitive advantage. Now, when you go out into the ad platforms, when you go out into making a logo or any of these things, right, you're starting with a more likely to get a yes from the customer from the get-go. And that's why this is helpful. All right, Get Unstuck number 4. I think we actually have Edgar Jimenez on, if I'm saying that correctly. And so I don't know if we can, there we go. So Edgar, I love this cleaning for help. Do you want to talk a bit about your company? Maybe better to hear from you than from me. Where were you?
Make sure you unmute yourself, Edgar. I gave you, there you go.
Yes, I am here. Thanks for taking the question. Well, what we do is we are a commercial cleaning company, but we focus our efforts into the cleaning for health. What we call is that we try to be just as effective in when we go and do our jobs into not only regular offices, what we call that could be office buildings, corporate locations, but also treat them with the same amount of interest as we do medical facilities. So what we're trying to do is to wake up a little bit of that interest or that little bit of urgency after everything that we have been going through for the past few years into not only having somebody to take care of your office as far as cleaning is concerned, but making sure that it is disinfected and that you've removed most of the organism or the viruses or the contaminant that could be in the environment. Just because you cannot see something doesn't mean that it's present. So that's what we try to bring into the industry.
Yeah, and I really liked what I saw in Edgar's email, because if you see that cleaning for health, when you think about it, commercial cleaning services, there are so many commodity commercial cleaning services. And that has the formations of an actual unique value proposition, like some of the things we were talking about, right? It's not just a regular commercial cleaning service. But here's some tips for Edgar, and you can jump in, Edgar, whenever you want to. I think the biggest thing that we can all learn from this is how to help. Let's help and not just sell, right? Because think about it. Who wants to be sold on this call? But we all want to be helped, right? So some of the other things that Edgar had said to me was we often ended up attracting residential leads, which is not our market, right? They're a commercial market. And we began working with an SEO company. So I'm going to dive into some of those things when we talk about it. This is overall his homepage. It's the Green Bucket in Orlando. If you just Google that real quick, you can see the whole homepage and you can give him some advice. Commercial cleaning service and janitorial service in Orlando area. You can see that is the headline. I guessing that is heavily influenced by SEO. And there's a little bit more information about what they do. I mean, if Edgar's still on as a host and panelist, he can talk about more things. But so how do we help? First, for B2B especially, right? But this could be for others in D2C as well. Help your customer's customer, right? So let's think about it. Why do companies hire a cleaning service? Yes, they need to check a box off. They need to have the office clean or whatever it is, a medical facility. But could they use it? Could your competitive advantage be to better make happier customers, right? So what do employees want? And I was just brainstorming with McLeod's AI here, the market research analyst. I picked a few, right? Think about you're working in a workplace. You'd probably like safe and eco-friendly products. Most people would. Clear cleaning schedules. You wouldn't want, if I was doing this webinar now and someone's cleaning behind me, maybe not like that. It'd be good to know when they're cleaning. Minimize disruption for that reason. Pollen and mold removal. That might be a big one, right? For people who have allergies or they have mold sensitivities, right? So that's the customer's customer. Now, what do the employers want? That's your actual customer who's paying. They probably want a cost-effective, reliable, safe service. That's what we'd call table stakes, right? You could come up with any unique value proposition. I love cleaning for health, but if it wasn't cost-effective, reliable, safe, they probably wouldn't buy it. So you got to say first, okay, we have these table stakes, but then what else? Happy and productive employees. Why wouldn't you want that, right? What if I can get that from a cleaning service? What if they can help me? Also, and this is especially true now, employees back in the office. So I don't know how big this is. Again, these are ideas. I'm not in these industries, But I do have a interview with Lisa Lahiji, the CMO of a company called Urest and ESFM. A big company that does essentially the commercial food, like food at offices, right? Where there's I don't know what you call them, canteens, or where they sell food in the offices. So it's not out yet, unfortunately. But when it comes out in June, that would be a great one for Edgar to listen to too. Might give him ideas. One of the things she was telling me is their competitive advantage is very similar too, right? They're selling to the employers that we're going to provide the food in your company cafeterias, but ultimately making the employees happy, the customer's customer, is what's going to get the employers. And one of the ways they did that is we can help attract more people to want to come back in the office, right? So some ideas here. Looking at that value proposition heuristic again, let's dive into appeal, right? Appeal and exclusivity are the things that we hadn't talked about. So what might be appealing to customers about a commercial cleaning service? The customer's customer, the actual employees. You can see some of the ones on the screen, just brainstorm with MechLabs AI, the anti-allergen solutions, a scent and sensation experience. Wouldn't that be nice, right? Kind of reminds me of indoor plant care, right? I know it's not exactly what you do, but it seems similar to it, right? Where maybe your team could do that too. And that definitely goes with your kind of healthy value proposition you're trying to get across. It's one idea. Love staying in a hotel and getting notes and mints from the cleaning crew. So just different ideas of here's something. These aren't all going to be 100% right for your product or your brand, Edgar, but I'm just trying to give you ideas to think about what are some of the things you can add to show that value proposition. Exclusivity, all right, that's that other important thing. Well, if you offer this, but they can get it from everyone else, why should they go with you? There could be some exclusive eco or health certification. You're talking about that health. Remember, we talked about the credibility too. How can you back it up, right? Do you have a partnership with a local hospital or university that shows how healthy it is? All right. Tailored solutions for sensitive environment, right? Here, outline the specific solutions or methodologies, ways you can show it's exclusive, right? So these are things I've done with brainstorming with MechLabs AI to give ideas for appeal and exclusivity. What would this look like on a homepage, right? So these are some changes. I don't know, they might have negative effects on SEO. This is what you can debate with your SEO company. But when we, go ahead, Edgar.
No, I mean, I was gonna say, Daniel, yeah, you're pretty much, right on a few of the things that you are talking about, because definitely one of the benefits, but why hiring us for the type of cleanings that we do is obviously because we try to minimize or clean out all of the allergens in the area. Because nowadays, a lot more people are becoming allergic to something. So what we try to do is try to eliminate that instances or those circumstances that some of their employees might be affected by. And also, that helps minimize, the absenteeism from the office. So that way they have a more of a productive office, in place, and their employees don't get to be calling in sick as often because of, sickness or allergies or what have you. So that's how they can, kind of see the value that we come in and propose to them. I mean, who wouldn't like to walk into an office that smells, nice and fresh, every time that you come into? Your morale, goes higher, it makes you want to produce a little bit more and not to worry about, oh my, that's
Yeah, and that's fantastic, Edgar. But you're also putting a finger on the biggest challenge we all have as businesses when it comes to marketing. There's the actual value we deliver, right? And that's what you're talking about. But then there's the perceived value in how we market our services. And so in looking at your homepage, in fairness, I could be wrong. Anyone can disagree with me in the chat message. I don't get this from the homepage. It seems very generic, but what you're doing isn't generic, right? It just says commercial cleaning service and janitorial services in Orlando area. Cleaning is what we do. Professionals are who we are. Healthy environments is what we deliver. Your peace of mind is our part. It's very generic. I don't get that special value you're creating. So here's an idea. So after, again, this is how I came up with it. After brainstorming on this appeal, this exclusivity, right? After thinking through what employees want, what employees and employers want, right? Your customer's customer, right? Here's some of the copy. Again, I was brainstorming with MechLabs AI that we came up with. So notice, this is called the eyebrow above the headline, commercial cleaning and janitorial services in the Orlando area. Okay, let's be clear what it is. We need that clarity, clear to the people, clear to the search engines, but this isn't only for SEO. This isn't only for an algorithm, right? This is essentially the promise we're offering. Get happier employees who want to come into the office, right? Or the same generic commercial cleaning services. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but the thing they're going to have to keep in mind is they only have a specific budget, right? So we do want to address that. Maybe it's a little more, I don't know. But if you could get that, why wouldn't you want it, right? And then the subhead, the Green Buckets Cleaning for Health program focused on the well-being and satisfaction of employees. It's not enough to say that, of course. So then we go into the specifics. The first bullet point, Edgar, it's meant to address what we call the table stakes, right? I probably don't care anything else you have if you don't have the background check, the uniformed staff, rigorous security. I don't want to just let anyone in my office. You've got that. Great. What else do you have? Right? Employees can customize each individual workspace with 12 choices. They can pick their own scents, lavender, eucalyptus, right? Sometimes they get notes, treats from the cleaning crew. So now think about that. Cleaning isn't just some kind of behind the scenes thing nobody knows about. You've got an office, you walk in and you're like, wow, this cleaning crew actually took care of me. There's a smell I like right in my office. I got this note. Like I see something is actually going on. Value is actually going on, right? And so now for the employee that's actually choosing it, they're like, oh, there's some extra value here I'm giving my employees for roughly the same price, right? I don't know how much extra they pay. Maybe they wouldn't pay a lot, right? And then other things that the certification that you might have, talking about the high-touched areas, how they're disinfected, right? Again, it's showing, not telling, not just saying it's cleaning for health. It's what do we specifically do to clean for health and getting into that specialized anti-allergen cleaning routines, but ending with, I don't know the right numbers, for 87% of our quotes in 2024, our price was within 10% of generic cleaning services, right? So it's almost like going to those employers and saying, hey, if I can get within 5 or 10% of the price you're paying, but you've got all this extra stuff where your employees see it's a better experience, right? It's better for their health. They see the value. They want to come into the office more. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Would you want to do that? And getting that onto your homepage and your landing page and in all your marketing so everyone sees that it's not just sitting down and having a conversation with you. What do you think about that, Edgar?
No, that sounds fantastic. And definitely, I'm taking some pointers from you right now. So for sure, it's something that definitely is a valid point, and we'll consider those. And we can always test it and market it, see what happens, and then we'll take it from there.
That's the right attitude. Test, market, and learn. I don't know all these industries. I'm just trying to give you ideas to get unstuck. Some other real quick ideas. You mentioned having problems with getting the residential customers in. Here's a case study. You can go to it and see. This was an HVAC company. They had a similar problem. They were a commercial HVAC company. They were getting in too many residential customers. They switched from having 3 ad groups, you can see the ad groups on there, to having 2 separate campaigns, actually separate campaigns. And by doing that, they better trained, I'm sure everyone knows how it works now, but Google's machine learning, that AI that we're talking about, and they better targeted and got improved results. I don't know if that would work for you. It's an idea to play with if you're getting the wrong people coming in from your ads. One other thing I'll mention, so we talked about helping, not selling. That's helping the AI and the machine learning, helping the customer. I saw you have a blog. That's good. It's a step in the right direction, but this was the only blog post and it doesn't really look like a blog post. So one thing you can do is, when you have blog posts, make them look like blog posts, make them look helpful, add a byline, focus on topics that help the customer in their journey. There's more ideas on here as well. Think about what that customer journey is. We touched on a bit of it on the questions they might have, but where is the journey? What questions do they ask from, I don't even know about your company or product or service, to, yes, I want to be your customer. There's a series of questions they're going to ask, and then you can help answer them with your blog posts and content. And instead of just promoting, hey, buy our service, maybe you're promoting some of your blog posts. Here's a great example. I didn't come up with this. I'm linking to this was one of the speakers we had. I'm linking to it. I don't know who it was, but I'm linking to it, Marketing Copilot. And one of the examples was, you could do for a blog post, how do office cleaners calculate production rate, right? And you could send out an email campaign like 5 easy steps to calculate commercial cleaning production rates before you hire an office cleaner, right? So what are you doing? You're helping them make the decision with information. You're not just selling them. You're helping them make that decision. All right, before we go on to the next one, I think we have another question.
Yeah, actually, somebody had said not to throw off your target market, but instantly I thought about schools instead of businesses when thinking who'd be more interested.
Yeah.
So have you gone down that path before?
Go ahead, Edgar.
Okay, working with them a little bit, yes.
Yeah, Edgar's breaking up a little bit. It sounds like he has worked with them some. So that's another idea of, branching out and trying different target markets to test. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Edgar, we got one more. Leonard. I think Leonard is on as well. And we can let, I believe it's her, talk about her challenge here. I can just jump in if Leonard isn't able to answer. Do we have Leonard on, Adam?
Yep. Give me a second here. All right,
there we go.
And I just want to give you I don't think there's anybody behind us for another one, so we might be able to go over a little bit, but essentially you got a 7-minute warning.
All right.
Hello.
There you go. Tell us about your challenge here.
So I am having trouble coming up with the proper messaging to attract to attract clients, or at least to let them know that I could solve a problem for them in the training space, which was similar to what I think Dolores mentioned earlier in the chat.
Yeah, I was thinking of your example when Dolores asked. So here's an example of more of a service-oriented one, training-oriented one, virtual product. The thing I want to talk about here is customer first objective. What I like that you sent me in your email, Leonard, you mentioned who the audience was. Look at that. Female, mid to late career professionals or entrepreneurs, 50 plus. I hope everyone that's attending right now is thinking of that as well. You're not just trying to sell to everyone, right? Who can you specifically target? Even Edgar said that. He broke it down into multiple companies like medical, business. We talked about schools, but know that audience, and then you want to build a customer first objective for them. Here is Leonard's homepage. You can see right now, Rainwater Growth. Are you ready to supercharge your productivity? There you go. You got to get a sense what it is. Rainwatergrowth.com if you want to check it out and see it for yourself. So what can we do? How can we use a customer first objective to transform this page somewhat? So what is a customer first objective? First of all, and make sure you understand the methodology. You can go deeper in the link below. You want to have these 3 things in it. 2, that's the service we're trying to do. Buy, the offer you're coming up with. 4, the exchange. What are you asking them to do, right? So let's take a look at this. I used MechLabs AI to brainstorm just with Leonard's product. What is the 2? Well, they're trying to help people master current software and systems, saving hours and money on daily tasks. Buy, how is Leonard doing that? There's expert-led software training, customized learning platforms, efficient time you see on the screen. And what is she asking in exchange? Is it just engagement and feedback? That could be one thing, or it could be also a specific price, right? So when you're thinking about this customer first objective 2 by 4, there's an overall one for your company, which is what we're talking about here, but there's also ones for specific offers. So for example, you might have an offer ahead of time where people are going on a free webinar, right? And so focus on what are they going to get, right? How are you going to help them? That's the 2. Buy, how are you going to do that? And what are you asking for in return? It's always something, maybe sometimes just their time. And then overall, what are you doing as a company? That 4 then can become money. And why do I bring up the customer first objective? Because to answer earlier questions, this is just another example of how do we get in the customer's shoes and make sure we're serving them, not just selling to them, because that's where we will get the best results. It goes back to those landing pages and ads we would try to give advice for. At the end of the day, it wasn't that the ad or landing page was so bad. It was that there wasn't really a customer first objective. The customers didn't want to act. They didn't feel like it was something in it for them. So let's take this methodology here. This is just an example. It could be off on some of these things. And let's see how it could affect our homepage. But first, I want to give a specific thing that consulting services, any sort of kind of virtual product, it can really help conversion with. And that is making sure they've got something they can touch and feel, right? So keep that customer first objective in the back of your mind. Here's just a specific example for an education company. You can see the before, there's the email they were sending out, the after, and you see in the after, they tried to take these virtual things and make them a little more concrete, right? They got a 27% increase in conversion from just a change in these 2 emails. So education company is not exactly what Leonard does, but it's in the ballpark. So let's see how we can use that. She was kind of using it on our website. You can see some of these on one of the pages on the services page, I think these little icons, but there wasn't much in the text below the icons to get what it was. It just seemed very high level, and perhaps maybe things you're trying to sell me. Maybe I can be wrong, right? So I brainstormed with MechLabs AI customer first objective. What are some of the things that she could give? And here's 10 examples. You can read them on the screen. Gave me ideas from that. Let's look at some potential new homepage copy, right? So Leonard, I want you to let me know what we think about this, right? So the headline would be, you're the, and in an ideal world, this would rotate expert, right? You're the legal expert, you're the education expert, whatever. If not, maybe you can put a few things there. It starts with them. But what do? We help you do it faster, better, and cheaper so you can reclaim your time and focus on your core business. And then this breaks down the different things that Leonard does, right? You've mastered your industry, right? You know that we don't, but you shouldn't have to master the detail of every tool. We're here to help with that. We save you hours, reduce costly errors, and here's how we do it. Just coming up with some examples based on starting with a customer first objective. Tailored training modules. Here's a secret. You probably don't need to buy that specialized software. Excel and Outlook can do 90% of what you need. We'll show you how. Quick start guides. right? And the drudgery focus on, like, it gives them the idea of they don't need any coding skills. They don't need to do those drudgery tasks because we've got these quick start guides that help you with Zapier and making some of these things. And then it gets into the one-on-one and group coaching. And then it has a call to action at the end. They can schedule a call, or, and this is where it comes in with that customer first objective, maybe because it's hard to communicate value. Maybe there's some sort of free starter kit, some free 30-minute webinar they watch, something like that, where they get value whether they buy from you or not. Because then what we're doing is shifting from trying to force and communicate this value to showing them, to letting them experience this value, right? And again, it all comes back to that customer first objective where Leonard was saying, I do all these different things, how they fit together, communicating it on the page. What do you think of this, Leonard? So she may be muted. She may not be able to come through. She may just be in awe of how helpful this would be for her page.
It looks like she muted herself.
Okay, so with that, I hope everyone sees how to use the customer first objective there. There are those resources. Here's who I am. You can, again, go to my LinkedIn right there. Right after this, I'm going to post the slides. Oh, Leonard, I'm muted, but I'm also in awe. Thank you very much. You can see this when we get the slides. You can use that. We got 1 minute left, Adam. I see you raising your hand. I don't know if you'll allow us to go over, but is there any other questions we can help answer? Anyone else we can help before we're done today?
Got one more. It says, always care for you is an elderly care and companionship for kids. What would be a good marketing pitch to put that together? My question was, are you trying to link kids and elderly together or vice versa? Are you trying to link elderly with kids?
Yeah,
because
that is.
Those two things are amazing to put together.
Yeah, so that is a key question. So that is unfortunately Semiramis. I don't think we have time to get into it. There's not enough there to really unpack and understand what a good marketing pitch would be, but I would encourage you to go back to the value proposition methodology we talked about and understand, again, to just revisit that. Clarity. How can you clearly communicate what you offer? What's appealing about it, right? What's exclusive about it? How is it credible? What are the material and mental costs that your customers have to pay, right? And then I would also go into that customer first objective to understand what you offer, right? What are they going to get? That's the 2. Buy. How are you going to give it to them? And 4, what are you asking for in return? So hopefully some of what you saw there and what we did with some of these other people helps give you an idea for that. But again, taking it from that very high level and starting to answer some of these questions for the customers will hopefully help you.
Yep. And then Judy had one quick question, and I actually know the answer. I'm pretty sure. Exactly what was the AI prompt? I'm assuming that all you did was just put in the web page into the AI prompt back in the very beginning where you're talking about assessing websites and whatnot.
Sure. So for all of these, I mean, the best I can say is if you see the mechlabsai.com at the bottom, I shared all of the chats with everyone. You can just click that link. It's called a share chat. You can see everything. It's different. And I did that so you can see all that without getting into deep prompts. A lot of these we have in our tool. There are specific apps and experts where sometimes you can just put in either the URL or I put in the email that people gave me and just like started getting those outputs. But then what I always do, what I encourage everyone is I started brainstorming with it to figure out how we can get to that final result. And that's what I encourage you to do, not just get the specific output, but brainstorm. But as I mentioned, I'll share all these slides on my LinkedIn right after this. I'm Daniel Burstein on LinkedIn. I don't think there's any other Daniel Bursteins. I can't chat for some reason. It's not letting me anymore, or I would share my LinkedIn URL again. But look in the source frame, the slides, click. You can see the full chat. If anyone has a question, you can also reach out to me, and I can try to help follow up and help with some of those prompts.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but you definitely have access to that. So
I'll try one more time to see if it's blocking there.
Yeah, exactly. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, terrific. Awesome. So yeah, that is all the time that we have today. Daniel, thank you so much for a great, all your great resources, your time and your knowledge, and actually making this interactive. That is one thing that, I absolutely love about working with you is that you have this interactive approach, and it makes the webinars that much more exciting for everyone involved. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for volunteering and making it possible.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Daniel. Like he said, I believe he's going to be posting that on his, where are you going to be posting that again?
It's on my LinkedIn. I put the link in the chat. There's a link right there. I'm probably one of the only Daniel Bursteins. If you go to Daniel Burstein and you don't see an all-around swell guy like the guy in that picture, it's the wrong Daniel Burstein.
Okay, gotcha.
I've got credibility at this point. I hope.
Repeating it multiple times does give you credibility. This is what
that's what we do in marketing when we don't do all those other things I talked about. We just repeat it. We spam it out there, right?
Exactly.
Hopefully that worked for me.
It's called brainwashing. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.